myself. But hey, before I go any further, this will be a bit interactive, right? So what I would request you to do is if you have a mobile phone, I would like you to use a QR code scanner and scan this QR code. Or you can go to the website that you see above here. It's called menti.com and type in that code of 8667292, right? What you will see in there is basically you ask for your name and your email. But after that are some of the survey questions which would help me to understand what are you looking for, what are the pain points that you find in your plans, so that I can help address those and tweak the seminar today to be much more relevant to you. Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't spend too much time here, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. If you could just quickly take out your phone, scan the QR code, or go to this website and type in the code. That would be really helpful for me to make this seminar much more relevant and targeted towards what your pain points are. So, yep, I'm gonna pause right here for a while, and if you could fill it up, that would be really helpful for me. Okay, so I think there's like 3 questions in there. So it's just a really quick objective answers. You just have to select those answers, and I should be able to see the results in a while here. Okay, so I've seen that we have 4 person that's already joined in and answered, so that's good. Okay, 5. Okay, keep it coming. The more data that I receive here, or the more people that participate, it would help me to better gauge more accurately what you're looking for, or what's your concern here, right? So yeah, I appreciate your participation here. I'll wait for another 1 more minute, and then we will review those results together to see, hey, what are the general pain points that is shared by everyone on this call. Okay, we got 6 people that have responded. Naomi, how many customers do we have on the call today?
Mas jawaban unmute.
21.
21, okay. All right. Okay, so we should have a few more. So I'm going to give it maybe another 30 seconds, and then we'll review the results together. All right. So, hey, for those that are still answering, please continue to do so. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to review these questions together with everyone, so that we know, hey, what are some of the pain points that some of you may be facing. Okay. So, hey, firstly, I think we have 5 people that answered here. It seems like we have 2 from IT, 2 from maintenance, and 1 from engineering and design. So we got quite an even spread. And then if we look at the next concern here, what are you interested to learn today? We got load cells. It seems like most of you want to know about load cells. 1 person said that they want to know more about calibration and services, and 2 person says, I don't know why I'm here. So if you don't know why you're here today, hopefully I can help to educate you on what are some of the trends, and hopefully that will give you an eye-opener on today's topic. Okay. And lastly here, which of below have you experienced in your plant? It seems like, hey, some of you mentioned that there is fraud at the weighbridge. Some say a slow maintenance service response is bad as well. Not weighing accurately. It seems like there is some load cell breakdowns as well that's been observed. Tank weighing applications, although this is a vehicle one, but I would also like to see if there's any other scope outside of vehicle that may be a concern, right? So you can see here there's tank weighing. And also some of you mentioned that I've not observed any issues so far. Yeah. So great. Hey, keep this coming. If you have not filled it up, please do so. Just go to the website there, and it's called menti.com, and type in the code. And it'll be great for me to understand where should I focus from. Okay, so since I know now what you guys want to know more is around fraud, around service, around load cell breakdowns and accuracy, I think those are the topics that I'm going to hit today. Okay, so thanks everyone for participating. Now I'm going to go into our topic here. Okay. Now, for METTLER Toledo, for our vehicle weighing solutions, we have a global reach. We are a global company. And as you can see here, we serve a lot of countries in Asia, Europe, and also US. And our field sales rep goes through a lot of training. But what I want to highlight is really around our production facility. So our HQ is actually in Columbus, Ohio, in the US. And we have 2 production facilities in China to help support the region here in Asia and also Europe. And they are located in Changzhou and Chengdu, right? So on a yearly basis, we produce up to 3,000 to 4,000 truck scales per year. And of course, load cells, we have our load cell facility there as well to produce it. And the reason is because of lead time, right? If we ship it from the US, a lot of the costs will go into freight and shipping. So by locating our facility in China, it helps to reduce not only cost to make it more competitive in the market, but also reduce the lead time in this case, right? Okay, so hey, some of our customer database, as you can see here, these are the companies that we are already working with. Some that I should mention here is around Cargill, Sime Darby in Malaysia, Felda in Malaysia, Bunge in Vietnam, right? Air Products in Singapore, so Tata Steel in India. So we have dealt with a lot of key accounts in the region and also in different segments, right? So that kind of shows you that, hey, we are not only working with bulk food, for example, we are not only working with palm oil, but also with other more high capacity one like mining or cement and aggregates and stuff like that. All right. So hey, what I want to share here is around making the right truck scale investments. So the truck scale is the cash register to your operation. Now, it is very important for you to know that when you purchase a solution, when it comes to truck scale, it's not something that you want to replace every 6 months, right? Or every 3 months. That shouldn't be the case. Even when it comes to load cell, right? Some of you mentioned that, hey, there's frequent load cell breakdowns. If those load cells are breaking down every 3 months, and then you would have to replace them, that is not a good sign, right? Because number one, your maintenance budget is going to go up. Number two, you're going to have more downtime because whenever they replace the load cell, your trucks cannot weigh in. And number three, of course, it comes to also your time that is wasted calibrating, stamping, and all of that, right? So we expect that whenever you invest in a solution, it should last you at least for 15 to 20 years with proper service maintenance as well. Okay. So as I mentioned, reliability is also very critical because, again, like I mentioned just now, unplanned downtime can cause you a loss of business operation and also margin. One thing that I would like to highlight is also scale inaccuracy, right? If your scale is inaccurate, how much money or profit are you giving away, right? We talked about fraud prevention that was mentioned earlier. I will give you a few examples later on. And that's where it comes into the operational risk, where theft, fraud prevention may happen. And lastly, you would want no operational surprises, where if you have some sort of smart technology that could basically monitor for you, for example, if the load cell is disconnected, instead of you going to check to find out, and our system can tell you that it's disconnected, that can help you to take immediate action, right? Because we know that in the market, there are load cells where if it's disconnected, you wouldn't know, right? And when the load cell is disconnected, you get a drop in weight, right? Maybe 100 kg or 50 kg, and you wouldn't realize it until maybe 3 months later. That means the transaction that you have done for the past 3 months is inaccurate by minus 50 kg or 100 kg, right? And that costs money as well. Okay, so that's why we say the truck scale is a cash register to your operations, because whatever you weigh, the customer will have to pay, or you have to pay, right? And if you're paying more than what you're supposed to, or you are receiving profits lesser than what you're supposed to, that's not a good sign, right? And all these contributes to that as well. Okay, so hey, just a very quick overview on what completes a truck scale investment. Number one is the truck scale design, load cell technology, and support, right? So these three are the main components to making a good truck scale investment. And what is the outcome of this? Number one is reliability, right? With a good truck scale design, with a reliable load cell technology, and with quick experience and support, you will have a reliable solution. You will have an accurate solution as well. And more importantly, you will have optimized uptime or a reduced downtime, right? So given the time today and given the topics today, we are going to focus mainly on the load cell technology, okay? Hey, if you would like to know more about truck scale design or support, we can definitely discuss it after this seminar. But hey, for the audience that comes today, we are going to talk about load cell. Okay, so what are some of the considerations that you will need to do when you are purchasing a solution? Number one, of course, you can see towards the far end there, initial system installation. Now, what does this mean? This means that if you are considering to purchase, you have to consider the upfront cost of purchasing those products, right? Now, after that, once you install this product, you would also have to consider what it takes and what it costs to maintain those products as well, right? So if you purchase a load cell, how much are you expecting to spend in terms of maintaining that load cell for the next 10 to 20 years, right? And last but not least, it comes down to your system performance, where if you have a load cell, you need to know how reliable is it and how much can you trust that the load cell will weigh accurately most of the time, right? So when you look for a solution, don't always look for something that's cheap upfront and say that, oh, that's a good price for me to purchase, I'll buy that. But then realize that over the next 10 or 20 years, you are spending more on maintenance than the initial price, right? So what I always tell the participants is look for something that may be a bit more expensive, but if you see that the cost of maintaining it is cheaper, then go with it, right? If in an ideal scenario, you can find a cheap load cell upfront, and also the cost of maintenance is cheap, then that's great. But don't skimp or don't save money upfront and then find that you have to pay more during the maintenance for the next 10 to 20 years. Okay, so hopefully that helps to set the stage here. Okay, so when you look at purchasing a weighbridge solution, right? We're talking about everything now, right? You can see that 34% of your budget goes to the weighbridge itself. 20% goes to the foundation works. 20% of that budget will be spent on the load cell, and the balance of it is really around installation, software, logistics, and all of that, right? So what you will realize is over the skill lifetime, and these are actual data that we have collected, you can see that out of the 20% of the budgeting for the load cell system, 78% of the time, the issue would come from the load cell itself, right? And some of these issues are really around load cell failures, right? Where, we saw earlier, some of you commented that, hey, I have a frequent load cell breakdown, right? So when you exchange that or when you replace that, it comes with a cost. Cables as well, right? Sometimes rodents or rats can bite the cable, or somebody can accidentally cut it, whatever the reason may be. Those are also one of the common reasons why what contributes to that 78% of cost. And last but not least, your junction box, right? Junction box, if you put it under the scale, if it rains, water gets in, it would fail very easily, right? So that's what make up the 78%. That's why I say, if possible, don't try to save up on the 20% to find out that you are spending 78% of your maintenance budget just to fix these issues. Yeah. So just to give you an overview here, if you look at some of the typical service expenses, number one, it's really around your annual preventive maintenance and stamping, right? So it's about 25 million Indonesian rupiah. Now, if let's just say you find out that one of your load cell is down and you would want to replace it, it will cost you around 40 to 45 million Indonesian rupiah, right? And if let's just say your scale gets struck by lightning and the load cell fails, it will cost you 25 million Indonesian rupiah for you to repair it. And bear in mind, this is just cost of replacement, right? You would also have to do calibration and stamping after that, right? So if you have a lightning strike, you're spending 25 million on the load cell, and on top of that, you're spending another 25 just to calibrate your scale, not forgetting that there is also downtime in your plant, right? It could be 1 day, it could be 2 days. So those are also profits that is going to affect you at the end of the day. You're not spending money only on maintenance, but you are also losing money because your plant cannot is not operational to its maximum efficiency at the same time. Okay, so that's how we get up to the 78%, and that's where we see a lot of the costs go when it comes to maintenance. Okay. So now here are some pictures that I would like to show you of some of the junction box failures that we see in the field. You can see it's very dirty, right? If you look at the picture over here, you can see that the junction box is very muddy, very humid. There's a lot of water goes in. If you look up here, this is in US where a lot of snow build up. And if you see here, there's a lot of cables that's being left around. And it's not in a good environment, right? Now, in some cases, if you look at the picture up on your left here, you can see that there's a lot of buildup around the load cell. And what happens is it reduces the movement of the load cell, right? So it's very tight, and that could affect the accuracy as well. And if you look at the bottom here, the wires have gone around the load cell because as truck goes on, your load cell will the spot, and what happens is the wire will go around it until the point it snaps out from the junction box, and that is when you lose a signal to a load cell. And normally in analog situation, you won't know or you won't be notified if a load cell goes down, right? So hey, here are some of the pictures. I just want to quickly bring your attention to the top here. This is actually a junction box that has been opened, and when you want to do calibration, that's where you're gonna do it, right? You gotta basically do it out in the field. And if you look at the picture over here, you have one guy that basically covering the top because it could be raining, and you don't want water to get into the junction box, right? So he had to put a tarpaulin over. Do the calibration with a screwdriver in that box. And it's very tedious, right? It's very difficult to calibrate with that. Okay? So, hey, these are the case for solutions that comes with a junction box. Okay? Now, I would like to give you a foundation on how a load cell is made and how does it work, right? Because this will be very important for you to understand later on why a load cell is built in a certain way and how can it help you to reduce all of the issues that I just mentioned. Okay, so hey, all of the load cells, regardless if it's METTLER TOLEDO, if it's other brand, it doesn't matter. What they're using is basically a strain gauge technology. Okay, now what is a strain gauge technology? It's basically this, right? If you look here, you have one that is longitudinal and the other one is horizontal, right? As you can see here, this is horizontal, this is longitudinal. Now, this resistor will be on the load cell itself because as you press, as truck comes on and the load cell gets pressed, what would happen is you would get something like this, right? It will be shorter, and as a result of that, as you saw in the picture earlier, that longitudinal thing will become shorter as well, and that will send a resistance signal through voltage to the terminal to say that, hey, there's a weight coming on, it's getting heavier, and based on that, they will translate it to a weight signal, right? So you can see that once weight comes on, it'll become shorter and it'll become fatter, right? So that's where you will have this, where as truck comes on, you would have this that basically tracks for how short it is. And this will basically expand, right? Because as truck comes on, I press it and it becomes wider. This would expand. And based on how much it expands, it will send a resistance to the load cell and translate that to voltage to give you a final reading. Okay? Now, why is this technical part important? This is where it matters, right? Because in most cases, when people say that, hey, I have a digital solution, it really means translating the analog signal, which is what you saw, the resistance, right, the voltage, to a digital signal, right? They are not doing much with it. They're just converting it from an analog to a digital signal, okay? And then a lot of times in the market, they call it a digital load cell, which is what we are seeing more and more in the market, okay? So remember, what they're doing here is just converting the voltage that's coming out based on resistance into a digital signal at the moment. Okay, so now in truth, even if you convert that signal to a digital signal, what would happen is over time you will have a degradation in accuracy, right? So when you calibrate on the first day, you will be hello. All right. I think.
Jason, we are losing you a little bit. Your voice is going down.
So this degradation. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, everything is okay now. Yep.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, the reason for this accuracy degradation, mechanical moisture, temperature changes, the components, material buildup, and so on and so forth, right? And this is where maintenance comes in very, very important. You don't want to leave it too long until you are inaccurate, right? You want to ensure that it's a straight line, but it's always not possible. So what you do then is you then have to do recalibration, right? And then, of course, this will sway away from the ideal line again. But then the question is, when would be the next calibration with the allowable tolerance of inaccuracy, right? So if you have more trucks, let's just say you have 500 trucks per day, you may have to do servicing 2 to 3 times a year, right? Or maybe 4 times. Every quarter you have to do it 1 time. But if you have 100 trucks per day, you may only need to do servicing once a year, right? Because then you're not weighing that much, so then your accuracy level wouldn't sway too far too quickly as well. Okay. Hey, another thing that I would like to highlight is also fraud. Like some of you mentioned earlier, fraud prevention is a concern. And what you see here is load cell tampering, right? That is also a big concern. Even if you convert the signal from analog to digital, tampering can still happen, right? So these are some of the pictures that we got from the field where it's actually a device where you install this resistance into the load cell. And basically what would happen is, if I'm the truck driver, I come on the scale, I just have to click a button and it would simulate a higher weight, right? Or I can click a button, it simulate a lower weight as well, depending on what I want to do. But basically what is happening is now the driver have control. If he's going to come in and he's trying to sell something to you, I can basically press the button and my weight can go up by 500 kg. And now I'm tricking you to give me more money because now it seems like I'm giving you 500 kg more, but that's not the case, right? So we have seen this a lot in the market. And also these are some of the actual pictures where, you know, people have decided to cut off the load cell, install the cheating device, and use the remote as a tool, right? Or even they can install it at the terminal and do the same trick as well, okay? So now these are all very common, and not only they can cut from the side, but sometimes they can cut on the top as well. Why? It's because if the weighbridge is sitting on the load cell, you will not be able to see the cut, right, from the side. So in all cases, people will think that it's fine, right? My load cell is doing fine, but in actual fact, the cut actually happened on top. Okay. All right. So hey, there are a few weak points in vehicle weighing. I won't go in depth at this moment in time, but I wanted to quickly show you where are the weak points, right? So we have these 5 weak points where it's from the actual weight to the measured weight at the load cell, the display weight at the terminal, the recorded weight at the PC, and the stored weight in the database. Now, this is not only for load cells, but also for software. I won't go too much into software today, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview. Yeah. So where can this weak point happen? Number one is improper positioning. I'm not sure if you can see, but the back of this truck tire is not on the scale. So he could be weighing 10 tons, but because his last axle is not on the scale, he now could be weighing maybe 9.5 tons, right? And then you capture the weight, and that could be intentional or not, right? And then we talk about load cell cheating device as well. So that is something that, you know, you could switch with a remote from the measured weight to the terminal, and it could give you a different reading. Or you can also hijack a component or software, you know, with the device as well. And last but not least, you can modify the information in the back end through the software as well. Okay, so hey, when it comes to improper positioning and tariff manipulation, we have software to reduce that. When it comes to load cell cheating device, we have our load cell, which I will talk more in a little while here, where we have a CAN bus communication, which is much more encrypted. We also have breach detection to detect if somebody has broken the load cell to install something. And last but not least is really around the life rate curve of the software, where in our software, we can capture the life rate of the truck going on and going off the scale, right? What you're seeing here is basically a truck coming on, and then he clicks the remote and it shoots up again to the next spike, right? And that is where you realize that someone is cheating. We can keep this as a documentation, and you can then audit this later on with the truck driver, okay? And hey, last but not least, really around software, we have global certifications, we have automation, which I will not talk today, all right? So back to our load cell topic, there is a big difference between intolerance but not on target and intolerance and on target, okay? Now, at the end of the day, if you are deciding to purchase a load cell solution, if you compare the spec sheet side by side, it doesn't give you a full picture of what problem you are able to solve, right? Let me give you an example. Now, if you purchase a load cell and you say that, hey, Jason, you know, I like this load cell, it's cheap, it may not be accurate all the time, but it's fine. I don't really mind that. I just want a cheap load cell because, like you mentioned, right? I just need to be intolerance. And yeah, I can do maintenance more often. That's fine, right? Because I want to reduce my budget. Now, the problem with that is when you are only looking for a solution that are intolerance, that means maybe a plus minus 50 or a plus minus 30 kg off, it's not good enough, because I'm going to show you a calculation in a while to see if you're losing 30 kgs per weighman every time or 50 kgs per weighman every time, how much money you are losing at the end of the day over 1 week, over 1 month, over 1 year, right? So it's very important for you to be intolerance and on target so that every weighman that comes in, you are not increasing the chance of giving away that 50 kg or that 30 kg as often as compared to intolerance but not on target, right? So that is very important. So with that, I'm going to give you this example, right, to explain what I'm trying to say. Now, if you have 100 trucks per day, right, and if you are losing 50 kgs consistently for that 100 trucks, how much money are you losing, right? Now, you can tell me that, hey, 50 kg, I'm still in tolerance, right? So that's fine. But if you look at it, 50 kg times 100 trucks per day, you're giving away 5 tons per day, right? And that's a lot. So here's an example of a coal mining application where, you know, a price per kg may be 1,600 Indonesian rupiah. Okay. Now, if we look at 5 tons, right, 50 kg times 100 trucks per day, that's how much materials you're losing. How much will that cost you? So I'll take 5,000 kg times with 1,600 Indonesian rupiah. My 1 day loss is 8 million Indonesian rupiah. Okay. Now, if I take this 1 day and I times that by 5 days for a week, I'm losing up to 40 million Indonesian rupiah just by being 50 kg off, right? And if I times that 1 week by 4 to make up for 1 month, I'm losing 160 million Indonesian rupiah. And if I times this by 12, which would make up a year, I'm losing almost 1.9, almost close to 2 billion Indonesian. If you look at US dollars, it's 133,000 US just because of a 50 kg inaccuracy for 100 trucks per day, right? Now, that's why I mentioned not only you have to be intolerance, but it's also important for you to be on target, because a 50 kg can make this much, right? So you want to reduce the inaccuracy as much as possible for these 100 trucks so that you can reduce all this profit drain at the end of the day, right? So what we are talking about, as I mentioned earlier, 1 year loss is around 1.9 billion Indonesian rupiah. My next question would then be, what if you have 2 truck scales, right? You got times this number by 2, because in my initial explanation or example here, we are only considering 1 truck scale, right? Or what if instead of 100 trucks per day, you have 200 trucks per day? You got the times the 1.92 billion by 2 as well, which would be up to 4 billion, right? Or what if you have 100 kgs of inaccuracy, right? You got to double that up again, where instead of losing 2 billion Indonesian rupiah, you're now losing 4, right? So you can see that even in the short term, you might say that, yeah, it's only 50 kg, my stuff is not that valuable, I'm fine. But if you look at the long term, it really costs you a lot of money. And if you look at how much it takes to spend on buying a new weighbridge that I showed earlier, it's around 600 million, right? In a year, you can actually buy 2 weighbridges or even more than that with the amount of profit that you have lost because of this, right? So investing in the right solution is very important, and a solution that is accurate is very important as well. Okay, so hey, with that, I will go into our power cell load cell here. Now, what we have done with this is really remove the junction box, right? As we talked about earlier, we are removing the part that has given us the most problem, and instead of connecting to a junction box, we are connecting from load cell to load cell. Okay. Now, this power cell load cell, it communicates in a CAN bus network, which only the language that our METTLER solution can speak in. So if someone is trying to decrypt the language here and to try and tamper with the weight, they cannot do that because only our terminal can understand the communication protocol that is coming from our load cell. Okay. Now, the lifespan of our load cells as well is almost 3 times of an analog load cell. It can withstand lightning protection. It can withstand floods and temperatures. And we also do have active compensation for some of the external environmental factors that may come into play here, which I will share with you in a while. Okay. So the power cell PDX here, as you can see, it's a stainless steel enclosure, so it helps against certain acidic environments. We have laser welded it as well. It is hermetically sealed. It's filled with helium gas, and the reason why we fill it with helium gas is because of the last point there. We actually have a breach detection sensor in the load cell, where if somebody were to break open the load cell, the gas concentration of helium will drop, and this sensor will basically send a signal or notification to the terminal to say that, hey, load cell number 3 has been tampered with, all right, or has been break open. We have also an IP rating for our load cells, which is IP68 and 69K, and I will share with you again later on why that is important. Okay, so if you look at the picture here, this is actually a picture of a test that we have done where we put the load cell into an aquarium for 450 days. And at the end of the day, you can see that, hey, it's still working, right? We did not take it out. We did not touch it. Just to show the IP rating, we put it underwater for 450 days, and yet it's still working after that. Okay? So now, what differentiates us from a digital load cell, right? Remember, I talked to you earlier about the strain gauge and converting the analog signal to a digital signal. We are doing more than that. What we are doing is we are not only converting the signal, but we are also doing some sort of compensation to make sure that your weighment is as accurate as possible, right? So our power cell load cell does this. we convert the signal to a digital signal that you can see here. At the end of the day, we are digitizing this signal. But what we are doing more than that is based on certain factors like temperature, like loading, and all of that. We are basically trying to squeeze that tolerance to be as accurate as possible and to compensate for all those errors, right? So that's what we are doing. So let me give you an example. When it comes to a temperature error, right? Ideally, we have a straight line like this, right? As the load goes up, we want to have a linear line. In certain cases, where temperature could be hotter, you can see that, hey, we are still compensating for that, right, at 40 degrees. Or if it's at minus 10 degrees, we are compensating for that as long as we are getting a linear line. That would help to compensate for the errors, right? Okay, so we have a sensor inside the load cell to basically measure the environment. If it's too hot, we will adjust the signal to be as accurate as possible. And all this is done through the microprocessor that we have, where in our factory, we will put the load cell in the coldest chamber, and then we'll also put it in a heating chamber to basically adjust the referencing of each of the load cell. Okay, so now you can see that, hey, before the digital signal processing, it's very erratic, right? You have different lines everywhere. But what we do is after the digital signal processing, we try to make it as linear as possible to zero, regardless of the different temperatures. That's why we have installation in Russia, in Japan, in Indonesia, in Saudi Arabia, and the load cell failures that we have returned to the factory is almost close to zero, right? The load cell failure is 0.03% when it comes to returning it to the factory. Okay, so once again, it's not only a digital load cell, it's a power cell load cell because of that active compensation that we do with temperature. Okay, hey, not to go too much into detail here, linearity and hysteresis error, it's really around truck loading onto the scale, right? So as truck comes on, it will not be a straight line, it will be a curve. And when trucks goes off, you can see that it will be another curve coming down, right? So what we are doing in the load cell is we are basically squeezing that as close as possible to a linear line as well through our active compensation, right? So that you are getting the accurate weight as much as possible. And hey, last but not least, we have creep. Now, what creep is basically when the truck comes on, right? You can see that when the truck comes on, the weight goes up. If he stays on the scale for too long, you can see that the weight will increase, right? Because of different temperatures and because of the time that the truck is on the scale, right? So you can see that at different temperatures, the weight will increase, and this will cause an inaccurate weighing as well. So what we are doing is we have the microprocessor to also track for creep, where if we see that the truck is being on the scale for too long, we will compensate that to ensure that if it comes on at 10 tons, it will continue to stay at 10 tons for an X number of time, right? Maybe for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. We will hold that value of 10 tons over a certain period of time. And we compensate for the weight regardless of different temperatures as well. Okay? All right. So when it comes to accuracy, this is why I wanted to share with you. This is basically the installation or verification results that we have gathered from all of our install base for our analog load cell. Now, to not go into too technical, what we are doing here is before we calibrate the scale, we want to see how far or how inaccurate the scale is, right? So for example, if I take a 10 ton of weight and I put it onto a specific scale, if it's reading 9,980, that tells me that my scale is minus 20 off, right? So I include a data point here. Now, if I go up to 100, that means, hey, there are some truck scales where I put 10 tons and I'm weighing 9,900 kgs, right? And that's where you can see these are all the 6,900 data points that we have collected. And what we can say at the end of the day is if you put a weight on any of these weighbridge, any of these 6,900 weighbridges, you are almost 100% confident. So with 95% confidence, we will say that it can range, the error can range from plus minus 163 kgs, right? So if I put a 10 tons on a specific scale on any of these that we've collected, the chances of you being out of tolerance up to 163 kg is very high, right? Now, if you look at our power cell load cell, we have over 11,500 data points. You can see that we have 95% confidence that if you put 10 tons of weight on any of these 11,000 scales, we can almost guarantee you that the tolerance will be plus minus 60 kg only, right? Now, we are not saying that we are accurate all the time. But what we're saying is that we would want to try and reduce these as much as possible so that you are not losing money like what I shared with you earlier, right? So at the end of the day, the results that I'm showing you is not only from METTLER Toledo, but if you look down here on your right, these are also results from Fairbanks, Rice Lake, Avery, Cardinal, and Revelta. So what I'm trying to compare here is not so much on the brand, right? Because we also do have analog load cells. And as you can see, the technology of analog load cells gives you a plus minus 163 as compared to the technology of the power cell that gives you a plus minus 60 kg, right? So it's really around the technology, it's not around the brand. And that's what we do, right? We do digital compensation with our power cell load cell. Okay, so I'm gonna go into a service repair, right? Some of you mentioned around service, so I wanted to share this very important data with you, which is what our colleague in Australia has shared with us. Now, if you look at the assets share here, now what this means that for this customer, right, he has purchased 79% of their install base is METTLER Toledo load cells. You have 12% from Ultra, 2% from QVM, which is another supplier, and we have 5% from Avery and 2% from United Weighing, right? So this is basically his install base, and as you can see, METTLER Toledo load cells is the most installed in his plant, right? So we have the highest asset share, but if you look at the breakdown, it's very low, right? This is basically a view of how much the customer have spent in the event if there is an unplanned breakdown, right? So for example, if I'm doing operations as usual, suddenly it breaks down, how often are these, right? So you can see here, I will give you a very common name here. We have Avery. You can see that, hey, Avery is only 5% of the installation, but you can see that they contribute quite a bit when it comes to the breakdown cost, right? And if you look at METTLER Toledo, we have 79% of the weighbridges installed, but if you look at our maintenance cost, it's very low. It's one of the lowest, right? So that's where, again, I mentioned earlier, you shouldn't only look at the initial purchase cost. It may be cheap, but if you look at the maintenance cost, it may be higher, right? And that's where we have this data to prove that regardless of having so many installations of our power cell load cell in this customer side, we are still keeping the maintenance costs over the next, yeah? Okay, so this is very important. So hey, at the end of the day, one thing that you got to understand is, yes, you may purchase a solution that is cheaper, but maintaining it could be more expensive. But why not spend a little bit more in the beginning, but maintenance costs will be much cheaper later on, right? And all this is due to us taking away the junction box, us having lightning protection of up to 80,000 amperes, having an armored cable, hermetically sealed electronics, and a predictive diagnostics, right? So all these play a very important part when it comes to deciding for a solution. All right. So hey, with that, what I'm going to share with you next is really around how we make our load cells. And you will find that in the video later, the strain gauge is on the load cell, and we attach a microprocessor to it to basically digitize the signal and also compensate for all these external factors. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now for a while. I'm gonna come back again, and I'm gonna share with you the video of what I'm talking about here in just a moment. Okay, I'm gonna include my computer sound.
Since 1988, power cell load cells from METTLER Toledo have led the industry in digital heavy capacity weighing. Power cell PDX load cells are the third generation of power cell technology. Power cell PDX was developed by METTLER Toledo's heavy capacity divisions in Switzerland, China, and the United States for use in applications all over the globe. These load cells are manufactured in a specialized production facility, which has produced over 7 million load cells since 1989. Production of power cell PDX load cells begins with high-quality stainless steel and an array of computer-controlled manufacturing equipment. The stainless steel core is precision machined and then heat-treated to enhance material strength. Each cell core is serialized for product quality tracking. Strain gauges are affixed to the finished core. They convert the weight applied to the cell into an electrical signal. The strain gauges are individually inspected to ensure accuracy. Advanced electronics are then mounted directly to the core. These electronics provide the secure digital weighing signal for each load cell. Next, the stainless steel enclosure is installed, providing protection in any environment. The enclosure is fully laser welded, producing a strong and completely airtight seal. The hermetic seal of each cell is then tested under vacuum. But building the cell is only the beginning. Each power cell PDX load cell is temperature compensated in a controlled chamber. This ensures weighing accuracy, regardless of temperature fluctuations at the scale. Thorough individual testing further ensures accuracy and performance. Only now can the cell be laser engraved, noting its certifications as a top-quality METTLER Toledo load cell. This facility also houses specialized R&D equipment, such as a 50,000 kilogram deadweight test machine used for product development and testing. The finished load cells are then ready for reliable service in any environment, from the hottest desert to the Arctic Circle. No matter what you weigh or where you weigh it, power cell PDX load cells are built for the challenge, with unsurpassed quality, reliability, and accuracy, only from METTLER Toledo.
All right. So hopefully that gives you a understanding on how we do and produce our load cells in China. Okay. So next, what I want to share with you here is our lightning protection. And this is very critical, right? In Asia, especially, there is a lot of lightning situations that happen. And what we have done is we have protected the load cell. We have developed the load cell to be protected from lightning up to amperes, where a typical around 30,000 amperes. Now we have not only claimed this, but we have also tested it in a lab, and we also do have certificates that we can share with you from the third-party lab to say that, hey, this has been tested and it has been working as expected, right? So what I'm going to share with you now is a video on how we do this and how this test was carried out in the lab itself. Okay, so.
There are more than 8 million lightning strikes a day worldwide. All it takes to put a vehicle scale out of service is one. Be protected with METTLER Toledo's Strike Shield technology, built into the PowerCell PDX load cell system. As the market leader in vehicle scale lightning protection, METTLER Toledo knows the high cost of lightning damage and downtime. To prove the reliability of our designs, we underwent independent laboratory testing, subjecting the entire PowerCell PDX system to the real-life effects of lightning. The network is designed using a smart grounding system with lightning protection components in the load cell and terminal. The system directs dangerous currents away from the load cell and terminal, which shuts off in the event of a surge overload, protecting the entire system from damage. This protection allows the PowerCell PDX system to withstand lightning strikes up to 80,000 amperes, more than twice the amperage of a typical lightning strike, making the PowerCell PDX the only system with proven performance in and out of the lab. In Texas, Lone Star Specialty suffered a severe lightning storm, causing major power outages.
Power was off for more than 2 days. Our computer server was a total loss, and we lost our main phone line for over a month. But the scale with the PowerCell PDX system made it through.
Lightning damage from the storm cost Lone Star time and money, but their METTLER Toledo truck scale performed as if nothing had happened. Let METTLER Toledo protect you from lightning damage with the PowerCell PDX system's Strike Shield technology.
All right. So hey, that's a video that you can find on YouTube on our lightning test that we have done. And again, we also have the certificates that we could share with you as well. Okay. Hey, lastly here, if you look at our PowerCell PDX, one thing that I would like to highlight is also protection from corrosion and failure. We actually have a stainless steel component that's built with the enclosure, and we have also passed a IP68 and 69K with a breach detection. So you would always know if the load cell has been break open, right? Now, if you look at the picture at the bottom, these are actual installations in Indonesia, right? You can see that there's a lot of dirt buildup around the load cell. And also, you can see here that it's basically restricting the movement of the load cell because of all the dirt, right? So it's very important to do maintenance in this case. And one of the reasons why we put a IP69K for our load cell is because of a high pressure washdown, right? So IP69K basically say that, hey, I can direct a high pressure washdown at the load cell, and yet it still wouldn't damage it at all, right? So this is important because if you only have IP68 basically say I can submerge my load cell more than a week in the water. But if you don't have IP69, you can still wash it down, but there's no guarantee that it would cause a damage in the load cell enclosure, right? So that's why it's important to have the 68 and 69K in this case. All right. Hey, last but not least, you may ask me, hey, Jason, I would like to do a load cell replacement, right? Maybe my deck is still fine. I don't need a full truck scale. I have a load cell that, maybe it's an analog, and I would like to convert it to your PowerCell solution? Is it possible? So the answer for that is yes, right? So you could do a conversion with your existing truck scale. You don't have to buy a new one. And what I'm going to show you here is a video that one of our colleagues in Thailand has done. And it will walk you through how do we track for notification if somebody disconnects the load cell, and how do you install it and how long does it take, right? So let me share with you the video here and give you an understanding. So if you look here, this is actually a video taken from our colleague. And if you see at the timer up here, this is basically how long it will take for us to exchange a load cell out in the event of a failure, right? So if you look here, what we have to do is just plug out the cable, raise the deck, remove the receiver, remove the load cells, and then take a new one in, put the load cell in, include the receiver, and plug the cable back in, right? Okay. So if you look at this whole procedure of just plugging it in, you can see that it takes you probably less than a minute to complete, right? So you can see here it's only about 40 seconds for you to remove and install our load cells again, as compared to the junction box, right, that I showed you earlier. So it's pretty quick that we could do this. Now, what I'm going to show you next is really around the notification, right? So if I remove...
Mbak aja bisa ngedemoin, malu nggak bisa.
All right. So hey, if you could mute your line, that'd be really helpful. Okay. So if I were to remove a load cell cable from a load cell, right? If somebody were to detach it, what you can see is on the terminal, there is a notification that says node 4, no response, right? So then this would basically give you an idea that somebody have disconnected the load cell on purpose or not, and you would know which load cell has been disconnected, right? Now, to confirm, what you could do is you could go into the terminal. You could then look at the load cell output and see whether is it giving you any weight. So as you can see here, load cell number 1, we have a certain output. That means that it's connected. Number 2 is also fine. Number 3 is also fine. But if you look at number 4, we are not getting any signal from there, right? So now you can basically reduce the need to investigate which load cell is down, unlike the analog or digital load cell, and you can quickly go and tend to the problem immediately. Okay, so that is how we basically notify our customers whenever a cable has been disconnected, and you can double check it with the output here. Okay, so when it comes to replacing a new load cell, let's just say a load cell breaks down. How do you replace it, right? So I will take out the load cell. I would then have a service guy bring you a new one. What we would then need to do is to address this load cell, right? Because it's new, it does not know how to connect all together. So what we're doing now is we are addressing it. So first, we go into the setup. We go to a single cell addressing, and then we connect to the load cell. It would basically try and identify these load cells, and then it will give you a serial number. And remember, just now, node 4 was down, right? So now we change this to node 4 to give it a name, basically, and we address the cell. Okay? Now, once the address has been completed, you can then remove this and basically take it to your weighbridge, and then the service guy would basically install it at the deck itself, right? So in this case, let me just fast forward here. In this case, I'll just install it, fix the receiver back in place, install the cable, lock it, right? And then you are good to go. Yeah. So as you can see here, what she's going to show you here is basically the weight reading will come back on. It's a little bit hard to see, but if she goes back to the main screen, you can see that the weight has now been displayed. There is no errors that comes out already, and you are up and running again, right? So with all of this, right, to replace a single load cell when it comes to increasing your uptime, it's very quick, right? Less than a minute to remove it, and then you just have to address it on site, install it, and you're ready to go again, right? As compared to spending maybe a full day trying to do this. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a better picture on the load cell replacements when it comes to after sales service or even installing it, right? So here I would like to end a little bit on our power cell load cell here with this picture, where we could easily do conversions on your existing deck, as you can see here. For our power cell PDX, for any of your installations, regardless of whatever brand it is. Okay. All right. So hey, before I move on to the last session here, I would like to give you a specification comparison between our load cell and with other brands as well. As you can see here, one of our main brands that we are up against is Avery with Tronix. You can see that, hey, when it comes to approvals, digital signal processing and all of that, we have the upper hand, right? We have approvals for Handbook 44. We have better digital signal processing as compared to Avery, where they only do linearity, but as I showed you earlier, we also do for temperature, creep, and all of that. Our communication is based off RS4 CAN bus in the daisy chain, but Avery is using the RS485, which can be tempered as well, because it's a quite a general protocol. We don't need any junction box, which is one of the main reasons, but Avery does. And we also have a breach detection. In the event if somebody were to break open the load cell, we can notify you. We also have a stainless steel armored cable to protect from mice biting it off. Our cable is detachable, as you saw earlier. So from a servicing installation, it's much easier. We have lightning protection. But Avery Electronics, they need some sort of large surge arresters. And what's more important is, hey, our solution with PDX can supply for a zone 1 application as well, if you have any at this moment. Okay. Now, secondly, here we have Cardinal Smart Cell. Just to show you again, I won't go through the details here on where we try them. So those in greens are what we are confident that we have over Cardinal. And as you can see from a Cardinal standpoint, they're also using an RS485. There's no submersion rating. So if there's flood, which is pretty common, right, in India, in Thailand, in Indonesia, that would be a concern. And no, there's no hazardous usage at the point. Flintech, again, same thing. So they also do compensation, but only for temperature. Again, communication-wise, it's a 485, which can be easily tampered with. There's no breach detection. There's no armored cable. So basically, you could use a scissors to cut through the cable. That's also possible, right? And again, there's no hazardous usage here for this load cell. Okay, so don't worry about this. Gary and Naomi will send this to you, and Teras will also forward this to you so you can have a closer look. But I just wanted to give you some sort of spec comparison between ours and other competitors out there. Okay, hey, last but not least, here is a quick overview on our load cell technology of what I talked about earlier. So if you look at the analog load cell, it has a very weak signal because it's plus minus 0.03 volts. It's susceptible to the environment with water, with lightning. There's no protection against that. And there's no adjustments or compensation done to the external factors. However, the initial cost is low. of course, the failure rate is also higher. And in terms of accuracy, right, this is not what you want to go for, because again, as I've shared with you earlier, you're losing. When it comes to digital load cells, like I shared with you earlier, is mainly a conversion of analog to digital, but they are not doing anything with the signal, right? So it is a strong signal, right? Because then it's digitized, but there's no compensation. It's a higher cost, and in terms of what its function, it's still not as comparable as compared to our power cell technology, where we could withstand flood, lightning strikes. We have active compensation for all the factors I talked to you about. It's a little bit more expensive, I would say, but it could maintain the accuracy much more longer as compared to the rest. And as you've seen in the video earlier, we have tested it for temperature, we have tested it for lightning, we have tested it for IP ratings, right? So it's a proven technology that we have installed over 30 years in the past. Okay, so my last slide here is really around the power cell technology and what I shared with you earlier. I saw one of you talking about tank weighing as well. So what I'm going to share with you is not only for vehicle scales, but also for floor scales and tank weighing scales as well. Okay, so let me share with you the video.
METTLER Toledo Power Cell technology is designed to improve the performance of bulk weighing applications across the entire production process. Let's take a look at how power cell technology can help you to cut maintenance costs by up to 50%, reduce downtime, eliminate human errors, and avoid bad batches and rework. Traditionally located outside, truck scales are exposed to harsher conditions than most industrial equipment. METTLER Toledo's Power Cell PDX load cells are built for the challenge, offering improved reliability, decreased maintenance costs, and industry-leading accuracy. Power Cell PDX systems are daisy-chained together, eliminating the need for a junction box, the #1 cause of truck scale failure. Features including a stainless steel hermetically sealed enclosure and advanced lightning protection defend Power Cell PDX against the harshest weather conditions, including complete flooding of the scale. In the event of a failure, the detachable cable design allows for quick and easy replacement of a single load cell. As products are received into the plant, we will highlight how Power Cell technology can improve the production process. Power mount weigh modules offer a level of visibility into your tank scale system that no analog solution has ever been able to provide. The condition monitoring features of Power Mount constantly communicate with each individual load cell and alerts users of typical errors prior to any serious problems occurring. This helps to reduce failures that can result in poor product quality, costly thrown away batches, and product recalls. Although it is not common, in the event of a complete load cell failure, the Run Flat feature in Power Mount will automatically activate, keeping your system running until your batching process is complete, saving your operation significant time and money. Moving to the final stage, we look at floor scales, which are an integral part of the bulk production process. New Power Deck floor scales are the first of their kind, utilizing Power Cell technology, and are designed to save you time and money. With real-time alerts, including load cell failure, debris detection, and overloading, you are able to avoid bad batches and rework. Incorrect loading is a common problem for traditional floor scales due to the lack of visibility around the scale and no alerts in place, leading to inaccurate measurements. Power Deck is able to solve this problem with real-time operator guidance. Users are alerted when a load is improperly placed and guided to where the load should be located on the scale deck, ensuring proper placement and accurate weighments every time. Whether upgrading current equipment or designing a new facility, Power Cell technology will help you achieve maximized yields through improved reliability, increased accuracy, and simplified maintenance. Choose PowerCell technology to enhance business operations today.
All right. So, hey, with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. Hopefully, this session has been helpful for you to understand, how can you calculate your profit loss, what are the effects of inaccuracy on your plan, and the solution of PowerCell that we have here that can help you to reduce service costs over a lifetime. Also, in terms of ROI, how much can you benefit out of this? And also when it comes to fraud prevention and stuff like that, how can we help to mitigate that and also to reduce some of the external factors with active compensation? All right. Hey, with that, I will pass the time back to Naomi for her to handle the feedback session. And what I'll do is I'll look at the comment section here and see if there's any questions that come up. Okay, so Naomi, back to you.
Oke, thank you, Jason. Oke, baik Bapak Ibu sekalian, di kolom chat mohon diperhatikan saya sudah share untuk link feedback form. Jadi feedback form ini berguna sebagai media komunikasi antara TOLEDO dan Bapak Ibu sekalian untuk bisa membantu memenuhi kebutuhan Bapak Ibu sekalian. Untuk materi presentasi nanti juga akan dibagikan dalam bahasa Indonesia juga beserta e-sertifikat kepada peserta yang mengisi feedback form. Jadi mohon diperhatikan untuk setiap peserta harap mengisi feedback form masing-masing. Jadi meskipun dalam satu perusahaan yang mengikuti webinar ini lebih dari satu orang dan disaksikan secara bersamaan, jadi bukan dari satu login user saja. Mohon tetap mengisi feedback form bisa diisi satu persatu untuk kemudahan pendataan. Oke, yang seperti itu untuk penjelasan feedback form dari saya.
Okay, so hey, while waiting, I think there's a few questions here around the ID 131. Gary already explained on that. Yeah, hey Gary, do you want to any other comments here on the 131 that you want to talk about?
Not really. So on the 131, I think we need to discuss further for the application because of the limitation of the new IND 360. And then on the change of the PLC program also. Those things we need to know how to minimize the change of the program.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think reach out to Gary separately on that. He'll be able to support you. I see there's one question here on lightning protection. It seems like there is some lightning issues here.
So let's open the Q&A because I think to answer this in based on experience, I think it will be better, Jason.
Okay.
Ya, mungkin saya buka Q&A-nya ya. Yang pertama dari Pak Syawaludin ya, dari tim teras yang lebih berpengalaman mungkin bisa dibantu. Pak Alex, Pak Tony atau timnya ada Pak? Online Pak? Iya, halo. Sorry Pak Tony, Pak Alex, atau Pak Paulus, bisa dicoba di unmute Pak dulu.
Halo.
Ya
Halo,
Pak
ya,
Alex, iya Pak, ini ada pertanyaan Pak dari customer, itu dari Pak Syawaludin ya.
Oh iya.
Selama ini kan mereka mengalami masalah dengan rawan karena kerusakan akibat petir nih. Nah, untuk pengalaman dipasangnya load cell power cell PDX ini ya di lapangan, berapa lama penggunaan load cell sebelum perlu dilakukan replacement, Pak? Umur load cellnya sendiri berapa lama? Mungkin bisa di-share, ada program apa dari teras, Pak?
Oke, ya. Kalau sejauh ini dari pengalaman kita, Ini ada satu yang dipasang di daerah Palembang, sudah masuk ke tahun ke-8, dan itu masih belum ada penggantian sama sekali. Dan kita juga pernah kejadian di daerah Kalimantan Barat, ada timbangan kita, METTLER TOLEDO, dengan timbangan yang satunya ya, kita nggak sebut mereknya ya, dan di sana pernah kejadian petir, di timbangan kita aman, dan di timbangan sebelah langsung rusak total. Itu dari pengalaman kita ya.
Oke,
Halo,
ada
Pak
mungkin
Syawal?
ya mungkin Pak Syawaludin, apakah sudah jelas Pak atau ada yang mau ditanya lebih spesifik lagi nih Pak?
Oke, terima kasih Pak.
Sudah
Ya.
jelas ya Pak ya. Mungkin nanti bisa kita kontak lagi kalau Bapak mau didemokan Pak.
Ya,
Bagaimana
makanya
nanti petir
pengalaman
kerja.
kita ini kan begini Pak. Ya saya nggak usah sebut merek lah ya.
Iya Pak.
Biasanya
Ya.
kan kalau kita timbangan ini kan rawan kan terhadap terhadap petir nih Pak. Ya.
Ya.
Halo.
Iya Pak.
Iya Pak.
Nah, apakah METTLER TOLEDO ini tahan nggak terhadap petir? Karena untuk Kalimantan yang kita ketahui itu kan memang daerah yang rawan petir gitu Pak.
Iya, benar Pak. Iya Pak. Kalau untuk itu Pak, kalau dari pengalaman itu memang kita nggak ada masalah sih Pak kalau sama petir Pak. Kalau untuk yang METTLER TOLEDO, untuk yang PDX sejauh ini yang di Kalimantan Barat itu nggak ada masalah.
Oke.
Itu pengalaman dari kita Pak.
Terus untuk di Kalimantan Tengah sudah ada yang masang METTLER TOLEDO ini nggak Pak ya?
Sudah ada Pak.
Sudah Pak ya?
Sudah ada. Kalteng, Kalsel, Kaltim ada Pak semua.
Perkebunan sawit Pak ya?
Iya, benar Pak, sawit.
Terus untuk kita kan biasanya Pak kan ini yang problemnya itu kan service after sales itu Pak.
Iya, oke.
Apakah ada nggak kira-kira support teknisinya di daerah Kalimantan itu Pak?
Kalau Kalimantan sementara kita masih belum, tapi kalau memang urgent kita bisa langsung order, bisa langsung jalan Pak, dalam 2 kali 24 jam.
Oh.
Paling lama.
Karena kan timbangan ini kan sensitif Pak.
Iya, benar Pak.
Terus untuk spare part semuanya ada support Pak ya?
Spare part aman Pak.
Iya.
Spare part kita 3 lapis Pak kalau mau menambahkan. Jadi dari tim tera sendiri selaku distributor Pak, per respon mereka ada stok. Lalu di METTLER Indonesia sendiri kita juga ada stok load cell dan kabel terminal, dan juga terakhir di hub kita yang di Shanghai juga ada Pak. Jadi kita 3 lapis Pak di sini support untuk spare partnya Pak.
Oke. Terus begini Pak, mau tanya Pak, ada nggak yang portable gitu Pak? Karena untuk kondisi-kondisi tertentu ada nggak timbangan yang portable gitu Pak?
Mungkin saya jawab Pak Alex, nggak apa-apa Pak Alex ya?
Oke Pak Giri.
Ya mungkin gini Pak, kalau Bapak ngomong portable sih sebenarnya rangkaian sistem kita ini sebenarnya knockdown Pak ya. Mungkin nanti bisa diunjukkan ya Pak dari ini. Tapi kalau Bapak ngomong yang model pad, yang model cuma roda doang ditimbang ya Pak ya, itu dari kami sendiri tidak supply karena itu nggak bisa ditera Pak.
Oh.
Iya, jadi memang bisa digunakan kayak yang dipakai buat sekarang ini apa namanya operasi itu apa namanya odol itu nggak bisa ditera Pak.
Oke.
Iya, kan Bapak yang penting bisa diteranya kan Pak ya. Jadi itu bisa legal Pak. Itu kelemahannya yang
benar.
apa namanya yang pad itu seperti itu Pak.
Oke. Oke Pak, makasih infonya Pak. Mungkin nanti bisa di-share juga Pak dengan siapa kita kontak-kontak jika ada suatu saat kita minat gitu Pak.
Boleh, mungkin Pak Alex bisa dibantu Pak Alex di sini Pak Alex. Nah, nanti kita berikan infonya Pak Syawaludin.
Oke Pak. Thanks Pak, makasih Pak.
Ya, sama-sama Pak, makasih Pak.
Ya. Lalu pertanyaan tadi ya. Tadi referensi ya, ada referensi diminta ya. apa namanya, tadi ditanya juga, mungkin bisa di-share Pak Alex referensi pemasangan, mungkin nggak tahu boleh disebutkan nggak nama customer-nya, sudah dipakai di mana aja Pak Alex?
Iya.
Ya, ada yang nanya referensi install base udah dipakai dipasang di mana aja, dan mungkin kalau boleh sebut nama PT-nya nih, kalau nggak keberatan di disclose mungkin bisa disebut Pak ya.
Oke, ada PT Lonsum di Palembang, di Kaltim, ada Minamas juga, daerah Kalimantan, Kalbar, Kalsel, Kalteng, dan masih banyak lagi sih Pak. Kalau untuk ini nanti bisa kita kasih Pak kalau memang mau butuh listnya.
Boleh ya, jadi buat yang ini
ya.
referensi lebih banyak, jika berminat bisa dikirimkan ke kami.
Bisa.
Requestnya ya, bisa dibantu ya Pak Alex ya.
Oke.
Untuk ini. Mungkin yang dari yang chat box mungkin sudah selesai. Ada lagi mungkin bisa di-unmute saja line-nya, nggak apa-apa di sini. Bisa langsung ditanyakan. Kalau technical bisa dibantu sama Jason di sini. Kalau dengan install base dan pengalaman ada Pak Alex dari tim teras di sini. Atau mungkin Pak Alex bisa di-share juga Pak Alex dari tim teras sendiri sekarang ini jumlah teknisinya ada berapa dan lokasinya di mana aja, mungkin untuk pengetahuan aja Pak Alex, bisa di-share ke rekan-rekan di sini.
Ya, kalau untuk teknisi sementara kita ada 7 dari tim kita, teknisi ada 7, dan untuk cabang kita ada 1 di Pekanbaru. Jadi kalau untuk area Sumatera kita bisa langsung didatangi langsung dari yang Pekanbaru. Jadi kalau untuk yang itu paling lama juga maksimal 2 kali 24 jam. Kalau yang dekat bisa langsung berangkat sih Pak.
Oke, baik Pak. Nah, mungkin ada program apa nih Pak dari teras, mungkin nggak ada di slide di sini, di-share misalnya, kan ada garansi 1 tahun ya Pak ya. Selepas dari garansi itu mungkin support apa yang diberikan nih Pak untuk mendukung jembatan timbangnya biar bisa up and running lagi Pak.
Kalau untuk kita memang servisnya sih Pak, servis kita pasti cepat. Jadi kalau misalnya dia minta hari ini ada problem, mau dia di Kalimantan, besok kita bisa langsung berangkatin anggota Pak.
Baik Pak.
Ya, servis kita pasti kita utamakan Pak.
Oke. Dan juga mungkin ada support lain Pak di luar, misalnya kalau misalnya ada yang kendala hanya load cell aja minta dicek, tapi merek bukan merek METTLER, itu gimana Pak supportnya, mungkin Pak Alex bisa sharing.
Kalau selain Metal Toledo, paling kita biasa kasih masukan aja sih Pak ya kalau untuk yang itu Pak. Kebanyakan sih kita langsung memang khusus handling yang untuk Metal Toledo Pak.
Oke.
Ya, sebelumnya pasti kita by phone dulu. Kalau by phone kita bantu ngecek satu-satu. Biasanya ada kendala di kabel yang agak ngelos segala macam ya, kita paling dari by phone aja sih Pak biasanya Pak. Kalau by phone selesai nggak ada masalah, baru kita selanjutnya udah. Kalau kecuali nggak bisa selesai, baru besoknya kita langsung berangkatin anggota Pak.
Baik Pak.
Ya,
jadi
Pak.
Kurang lebih seperti itu ya Pak. Jadi pertama diselesaikan dulu coba by phone, kalau nggak bisa baru itu ya.
Baru kita langsung kirim anggota Pak.
Kalau misalnya ada orang mau invest Pak, tapi nggak mau langsung beli 1 jembatan timbang, misalnya dia mau ganti load cell-nya saja gitu, itu apa bisa dibantu juga Pak?
Itu bisa Pak. Kalau untuk konversi kita bisa juga. Paling kita akan berangkatin anggota dulu untuk unwavering, cek dulu kondisi lapangan kayak gimana, apa yang diperlukan, nanti baru bisa kita tawarin the best-nya buat keperluannya apa aja gitu kan.
Ya. Baik Pak, jadi bukan terbatas saja di hanya menjual satu set meter TOLEDO, tapi juga konversi bisa dibantu juga ya Pak?
Bisa. Benar.
Okay, Gary, do you want me to go to the last slide here?
Yeah, go ahead, Jason. I think after you finish, they can unmute the line if they have more Q&A or put in the chat box. Okay.
So, hey, I'll let you handle this, Gary. But what I want to share with you guys that have stayed to the end is a promotion that we are running. So, hey, this is a promotion that we are doing specific for our PDX load cell. And it's going to be for a limited time. So, Gary, why don't you take this?
Iya Pak, jadi untuk limited time mungkin di tahun ini kami PT METTLER Indonesia bekerja sama dengan PT Tahan Sambaran Pak. Jadi mungkin kalau misalnya Bapak mengalami masalah dengan jembatan timbang yang dialami saat ini, tapi mungkin Bapak nggak mau langsung mengganti satu set Pak, karena mikir wah besinya masih bagus, kayaknya masih kokoh, segala macam. Tadi seperti disampaikan Pak Alex, kita bisa aja yang kita gantung atau bahasanya tadi yang digunakan adalah konversi. Jadi kita nyebutnya kita ganti nggak usah satu set, kita hanya ganti load cell-nya saja ke meter TOLEDO dengan tambahan conversion set dan terminal juga tentunya. Lalu sesudah itu kita bisa melakukan improvement. Dalam arti mungkin tadi menghemat cost, dalam arti karena tadi umur load cell akan lebih panjang, tahan petir, meminimalkan cost, dan juga anti fraud karena di sini nggak bisa dimain-mainin, nggak ada junction box di sini ya yang bisa diputer-puter ataupun dimanipulasi di load cell-nya juga karena di dalamnya ada gasnya. Jadi itu bisa diimplementasi segera. Dan ini bisa juga kita mulai dari mungkin Bapak punya berapa jembatan timbang, mau nyoba dulu, dipilih satu yang kritikal, oh iya saya mau coba dulu apakah ini benar nggak gitu. Baru sehingga bisa dibandingkan dengan existing Bapak yang mungkin merek lain. Jadi itu mungkin offer kita saat ini yang masih berjalan sampai akhir tahun ini Pak, sampai bulan Desember. Itu bisa menghubungi Pak Alex, di sini ada salim_indomas@yahoo.co.id, atau tadi kan juga ada feedback form. Dari feedback form ini akan segera kita follow up, mungkin minta waktu H+2, H+3, akan di follow up segera juga dengan partner kami dari Tera Salim. Mungkin itu yang bisa kita sampaikan untuk saat ini mengenai promo yang sedang berjalan saat ini. Kalau ada pertanyaan bisa di-unmute line-nya, silakan. Atau juga bisa ditulis di chat box saja juga bisa. Ya, mungkin kalau sampai sekarang ini belum kebayang ada pertanyaan apa, mungkin saat ini masih bisa mengkontak kami di yang ada email yang ada di sini. Mungkin untuk webinar kali ini akan kita sudahi dahulu. Mungkin saya pas ke rekan saya, Ibu Naomi. Ya, silakan.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Geri. Oke, Bapak-Bapak sekalian, terima kasih untuk atensinya, untuk kehadirannya pada webinar ini. Sekali lagi saya mengingatkan untuk feedback form, linknya boleh dicek di kolom chat. Sebentar, saya akan turunkan. Oke, saya mungkin informasikan juga, tadi mungkin di awal sudah diperlihatkan beberapa upcoming webinar yang akan datang. Mungkin tadi ada sedikit membahas, Pak Geri ada membahas tentang IND 360, itu juga kami untuk next webinar kami akan membahas tentang IND 360 juga. Mungkin jika ada yang tertarik boleh mendaftar, pendaftaran webinar bisa melalui Ibu Nurul atau yang tadi mengirimkan WA reminder, chat reminder untuk mengikuti webinar. Mungkin bisa disampaikan juga jika ada ketertarikan untuk mengikuti salah satu webinar kami yang tadi di awal sudah dipresentasikan. Oke, mungkin itu saja informasi dari saya. Terima kasih Bapak-Bapak untuk atensinya. Webinar ini akan kami tutup. Terima kasih, selamat siang.
Selamat siang.
Siang, terima
Siang, Bu.
kasih.